Ever wondered how two little tampons could turn your life into a whirlwind of questions and suspicions? Buckle up, because that's precisely what happened to me. It all started a few weeks ago when I found a tampon in the backseat of my car. Strange, right? Especially since I had no memory of leaving it there. But the real mystery unfolded when I found another one lurking within the depths of my sock drawer. My husband, bless him, was as clueless as a deer caught in the headlights. He had no idea about the tampons, their origin, or how they ended up in such odd places, and honestly, neither did I. But I knew one thing for sure: these tampons were not mine. So I turned to my sister, my confidant in times of confusion. We sat down, compared the tampons, and pondered every possible source. They were identical, save for different absorbencies. But who could have left them behind? My daughters were too young to even know what a tampon was, let alone leave them in such random places. And I certainly hadn't left them around for my husband or daughters to find and move. That's when my sister brought up Fiona, a friend of ours. Could she be involved? Was she playing a prank, or worse, messing with my husband? The mere thought sent a shiver down my spine. But we had no concrete evidence, just a hunch. Directly confronting Fiona or my husband seemed like a bad idea, so we decided on a subtler approach. We invited Fiona and her husband over for our Labor Day barbecue. Unfortunately, they already had plans. The mystery remained unsolved, but we didn't lose hope. We were determined to get to the bottom of this. The stage was set. It was time to confront the mystery head-on. While the barbecue plan didn't work out, the mystery refused to leave me alone. It was like a persistent itch, nagging at the back of my mind, a constant reminder of the bizarre tampon trail. My sister and I agreed that it was too soon for cameras. No tangible evidence, no proof. So I found myself in a waiting game, a silent observer in my own life. My eyes were on my husband, watching for any changes, any signs that might lead me to the truth. But there was none. He was the same man, loving, caring, completely oblivious to the storm brewing in my mind. His behavior didn't change, not a single iota. He was still the doting father, the perfect partner, the same man I fell in love with. Next, I turned my attention to our home, this sanctuary that now felt like a stage for a mystery play. I searched for any misplaced or foreign items, anything out of the ordinary, but again, I found nothing. Our home was just as it had always been, every item in its place, the picture of domestic bliss. Then, I watched our daughters. I was on the lookout for any new friends, any unusual behavior, but they were just as innocent, their world untouched by the chaos in mine. My sister's husband was adamant on this point, assuring me that if something were happening, it would be nearly impossible to keep it from me and the girls. His words offered a small comfort, a glimmer of hope in this sea of uncertainty. But this consolation was short-lived. Just as I was starting to put the tampon fiasco behind me, my world was once again thrown into disarray. The mystery took another unexpected turn, and this time it involved my youngest daughter, but that, my friends, is a story for another time. Just when we were beginning to put the tampon mystery behind us, a new oddity caught our attention. My younger daughter fell ill last week. As a mother, my first instinct was to stay home and nurse her back to health. But my husband insisted on doing so while I continue with my work. I was taken aback but agreed. After all, we were in the process of forgetting the tampon mystery, and his willingness to take a day off at such short notice was seen as a good sign by everyone, including my sister and her husband. Days passed, and my daughter was showing signs of recovery. I was relieved to see her almost back to her cheerful self, and my husband seemed to be doing a great job caring for her. But something strange happened at the end of the week. I came home from work to find my daughter dressed in a onesie I'd never seen before, with a tiny clip in her hair. Now I may not have the sharpest memory, but I have a good sense of what my kids wear on a day-to-day basis. This onesie was a complete mystery. It was the type I'd sworn off long before we'd had our second child. The long snaps across the front were a hassle and not efficient for diaper changes. Moreover, the tiny hair clip was an oddity. My husband is not known for his sartorial choices for our kids, let alone accessorizing them. The sight of my daughter in that unfamiliar onesie, with the tiny clip in her hair, brought back the unsettling feeling. The tampon mystery was seemingly replaced by this new enigma. Questions started swirling in my mind. Where did the onesie come from? Who put the clip in her hair? Was there a connection between the tampons and this? The mystery had taken a new turn, and there were more questions than answers. So here we stand, more puzzled than ever, trying to solve the enigma that has turned our lives upside down. The weird tampon appearances, my husband's obliviousness, Fiona's involvement, it all seems to be a jigsaw puzzle with the pieces scattered far and wide. With no clear answers, our lives have turned into a real-life detective story where we are the investigators, the suspects, and the victims all at the same time. We've compared tampons, scrutinized our home, observed each other's behavior, and yet the mystery persists. The unexpected clothes on my daughter added another twist to this tale, making us question everything we thought we knew. We're left with more questions than answers. Is it Fiona? Is it a prank? Or is there a more sinister explanation? The truth remains elusive. And so, the tale of the two tampons continues, leaving us in a state of suspense, and the mystery remains unsolved.
What happens when the flame that once burned bright begins to flicker and fade in a relationship? This is a question many of us have pondered. Picture a relationship that started out beautifully. The first 6 months were a blissful exploration of passion and intimacy, a time when the sexual connection was thrilling and satisfying. But then, for reasons unknown, one partner's interest in this fundamental aspect of the relationship started to wane. Can you imagine the frustration and disappointment? The confusion of seeing the person you love gradually drift away from the closeness you once shared? The pain of feeling unwanted and rejected? It's like a slow-burning fire that consumes your self-esteem, leading to desperate attempts to reignite the flame. Fights erupt, pleas for therapy are made, tears are shed, all in the hope of mending what seems to be breaking. As the battles raged on, it seemed the war was being lost. When words fail and actions seem futile, what's left for a relationship on the brink? The protagonist found herself in this exact conundrum. The spark that once ignited passion between them had faded to a barely visible ember. She stopped trying to fan it back to life. She ceased her attempts to initiate intimacy, to dress in a way that might inspire desire. The effort seemed too great, the inevitable disappointment too crushing. Instead, she shifted her focus, buried herself in her studies and work. These were areas where she could control the outcome, where her efforts would yield tangible results. It was a retreat into a world that was predictable, safe. But in doing so, she inadvertently created a silent chasm between them, an unspoken void filled with what was left unsaid, untried. Their connection, once vibrant and alive, was now a whisper of its former self. In the quiet surrender, the relationship began slipping through the fingers like grains of sand. When a relationship teeters on the edge, is it easier to point fingers or to look within? As the relationship began to unravel, the guilt of stopping to try started to creep in. The mind, once a safe haven, now became a storm of relentless what-ifs. What if more effort was made this year? Could things have turned out differently? What if the summer was spent taking more care of oneself? Could that have sparked more desire, more intimacy? There's a tendency to shoulder the blame, to think that perhaps the relationship could have been saved if only things were done differently. The guilt gnaws at the heart, whispering that maybe, just maybe, this is all your fault. It's a heavy burden to bear, this guilt, and it weighs down the soul, making every step forward feel like a Herculean task. But then, the fear of the relationship ending joins the fray, adding to the emotional turmoil. It's a fear that's almost paralyzing, wrapping itself around the heart like a vice. The fear of losing what was once a beautiful connection, of having to start over, of being alone. It's all consuming. And then come the expectations, the hopes for a future partner. Is it unrealistic to want a partner who craves your touch, your presence, even when you're not at your best? When the hair is messy, the legs unshaved, and the glamour stripped away, is it too much to ask for desire to still burn bright? These expectations bring with them another fear, the fear of settling for less. To accept a partner who only wants you when you're 100% perfect, to agree to a life of infrequent intimacy, is that really the future you envision for yourself? In the midst of guilt and fear, the crossroads loomed large. The path to the left led to a future shrouded in uncertainty, while the path to the right promised a life of settling for less than what was deserved. It's a daunting choice, one that holds the power to shape the course of a lifetime. In the midst of guilt and fear, the crossroads loomed large. When you find yourself at a crossroads, do you turn back, stay put, or forge a new path? The feeling of being lost is like standing in the middle of an unfamiliar forest with no compass. The fear of breaking off the engagement is like a cold wind, chilling to the bone. It's a daunting prospect, like standing on the edge of an abyss, unsure of what lies below. This relationship, once a harmonious melody, now feels like a song out of tune. It's like a dance where the rhythm has been lost, a puzzle where the pieces no longer fit. Is it a journey worth continuing, or is it merely a path leading to wasted time? This is the dilemma, the weight on the scales of the heart. It's a labyrinth of emotions, where every turn leads to a question, every step is a gamble. Yet, within this maze of uncertainty, there's a glimmer of hope. In the heart of the maze, every turn feels like a gamble. But remember, even in the darkest labyrinth, there's always a way out.